Michael Glickman. In earlier statements that you have made, you have pointed out that the crop circles indicate a change of paradigm, or a kind of a dimensional shift. Do you still hold this opinion?
Looking back, I realized that I was absolutely right. There's no doubt in my mind that we're on this journey of change. And I don't, as I've said before, I don't think the crop circles are responsible for it. I don't think they're doing it. But I think the authors of the crop circles are very much aware of this. And they also realize that we earthlings, who are profoundly stupid, as well as divine, miraculous, inventive, graceful, loving, but thick, we don't know what's going on. And I think our cousins, who are the impresarios of the crop circles, are using the crop circles to aid our transition and to give us some clues about this important time.
But that brings up another question, and that is, if this really is important for people all over the world to join in, why is it that this particular phenomena is appearing in this particular place on the planet?
Oh, come on, that's a silly question. That is a silly question.
Why?
Number one, because I don't know, and nobody knows why it's here. But then, this is like saying the Wright brothers flew their aeroplane. They developed it in Ohio. Didn't they realize that aviation was important for the whole world? Everything has to start somewhere. And you can say, why here, why here? Well, it will spread. It's spreading already. And the Wright brothers chose that area because they were making bicycles and they knew that area, so that's where they started. Now, who can say why the crop circle authorities, the crop circle engineers, why did they choose this area? This is a deep question which we could go into, but it's a question which is limited in time. Historically, it is of importance, but in the last 20 years, we've seen the way it's spread. I mean, where are you from? You're from Norway. How did you find out about it? Suzanne Taylor's from America. Andreas Müller is from Germany. There are people from Australia. It spreads. It doesn't matter where it starts. If for historical reasons you wish to go into the possible reasons for the selection of this beautiful valley as the heart of it, then we could discuss that. But everything has to start somewhere. The crop circles started here. But they will be everywhere. One Thursday afternoon at 4:15,
But still, even when it's a fact that these formations are here, I mean, clearly visible to everyone, why do you think it takes so long before the general public recognize them?
We're not ready. We're a long way from ready. What can you say about the stubbornness of our species, you know? I mean, we're driven fundamentally by a need to survive. This is our dynamo. But a subsidiary part of this dynamo to enhance our survival is we must keep the world the way it was yesterday. This is a desperate, fearful enterprise. Resist change. And the amount of terror, real terror, that is embodied in the idea of change is breathtaking. And fundamentally, people are very frightened, not by the crop circles, but by the shadow of the crop circles, by the implications of the crop circles, because if the crop circles are real, well, of course they are real, but if the crop circles are real, this destroys science, religion, philosophy, history, psychology. People don't want that. I mean, again, to go to the Wright brothers, they flew their aeroplane in 1903. In 1907, Lord Baden-Powell, who was the chairman of, I don't know, the British Aerial Society, which was to do essentially with hot air balloons, sent a letter to all his members saying, you will have heard rumours from America about a heavier than aircraft flying. Don't worry about it. This is impossible. And a lot of men and women all over England, whew, thank goodness. Thank you, Lord Baden-Powell, for reassuring us that this cataclysmic change in the world was not going to happen. And suddenly we're faced with crop circles and the implications of what will be the biggest cultural shock this planet has ever received. Of course people don't want to know. Of course they're scared. Of course they prefer to say, oh, it's all hoaxes. Go away, go away.
Yeah, but I mean, speaking of the hoaxers, what is your comments to, the general opinion that they're all are made by people just fooling around, having fun?
The idea, I don't want to speak about this. It's a waste of our energy. But what I have to say, and here is a rule, a law, an absolute truth. The only people who believe they're all made by men are people who know nothing about it. It's very easy to support the hoax hypothesis with your head buried in the sand. It is impossible to believe they're all made by men if you've seen one, read a book, seen a video, been to a conference, been to a lecture. These people haven't. But listen, I don't want, it's not my intention to upset people, you know. I mean, if people sleep better, as most do, believing that crop circles are a slightly funny joke, produced by people from the pub, then I don't mind. That is their life and their world.
But are there codes in these patterns, or are the patterns themselves just it? I mean, are there layers of information here, do you think?
Well, you see, it's very hard, isn't it? Because I mean, I get information from them at a certain level, and other researchers get other information at another level. But I don't believe the crop circles are messages. I believe the crop circles are communications. They're much more subtle, and I've used this before, but I'll say it again. A message is when you call home and you tell your wife to switch the oven off. As a message. A communication is when you go home and you stroke her hair. These are communications. And I think in our world we want messages. Tell us to turn the oven off. Should we turn the oven off? What should we do? And what the crop circles are doing, they're just stroking us. They're just saying, hey, the important thing about the crop circles is that we are here and we care. That's the most important thing. Now, once you establish the fundamental of this communication, we are here and we care, it's possible to go further and to take a deeper and more subtle series of ideas from the phenomenon.
Mm-hmm. But who is it, Michael? I mean, who are sending us these things?
Mrs. Ivy Burnsall of 137 Rose Grove. What do you mean, who is it? Who is it? Others. I don't know. Who is it? You want me to give you their visiting card? I don't know. I mean, I think it's our cousins who care for us very deeply, and we will get to meet them, and or maybe we won't. I'd like to think we will get to meet them, and I think, look, whatever happens, I would stake everything on the idea that we are moving into the era of the greatest transformation this planet has ever experienced. And it's not going to be easy. But
why do you think that is happening in this particular period of time? Why right now?
well, I think the 2012 thing is significant, and I don't fully understand it, but there are so many layers in the 2012 thing that it shatters all our conventional views of causality and physics and time. How could the Mayan civilization have so accurately known about 2012? How could they have understood this? And then, if you read Jeff Stray's book, which is a masterpiece, you see that many other civilizations hit on exactly the same date. There's that. There's also the thing of the way the Earth seems. There is the idea, and I don't know, about the Earth passing through various belts and various physical changes and pole shifts. All these ideas are coming up. They all seem to relentlessly snap back like an elastic band to 2012. And I just have this vision of gigantic machinery clonking over, big iron cogwheels as big as a continent, clonking over, and everybody in the universe, all consciousnesses in the universe have been waiting for this moment. And we here in planet Earth, we're you know, blissfully ignorant. I mean, look at the irony of our situation. On the one hand, the biggest killer of our planet, our way of life, our health, is fossil fuel. On the other hand, the most treasured commodity on planet Earth, for which people will launch massive wars, is fossil fuel. Now, this is bewildering, and we're looking at reality through the wrong end of a telescope and not seeing what's there. And I just have this sense that outside there are 1 million intelligences, tumultuous, turbulent, clamouring, saying, for God's sake, wake up down there. What are you doing? And I think the crop circles are part of this.
Yeah, but I mean, what very naturally pops into your mind is that if it's that critical and if it's of such a concern of those or the others, why don't they intervene more directly than doing it on this very discreet way?
For two reasons. One is ethical and one is practical. You know Star Trek.
Yeah.
You know the prime directive of Star Trek. The prime directive to the Star Crews was that they must never interfere directly into the affairs of a less evolved civilization. And I believe this is a very sacred ethical constraint. and Gene Roddenberry was remarkably prescient in having this idea, but I believe it's a real idea. It's an absolutely pure moral imperative. Don't screw up. I mean, this world has a history of marching in and saying, we will give you Christianity, we will give you our medicine, we'll give you our technology, right? We screw them up. And I think on a planetary level, the consequences are more severe. So I think ethically, they stand off. Practically, they know us better than we know ourselves. And the old question, why don't they land on the White House lawn? Well, this would be landing in the grounds of a lunatic asylum where the lunatics are armed. What would we do? We would try and nuke them. Now, in fact, they're so evolved, technologically as well as spiritually, that the idea of harming them, is a joke. But our world would fragment, it would unravel. I believe the biggest shock in the world will be the moment where we have to grit our teeth and say, there's someone else out there, and they're brighter than we are, they understand more than we do, they're more gracious than we are, they are more loving than we are. They're knocking on our door, but they don't want to sell us anything. They don't want to take anything from us. All they want to do is care for us. Biggest shock planet Earth will achieve, and it will unravel catastrophically. And I think they are standing off because they have this dilemma. On the one hand, they want to come in and help. On the other hand, they know that coming in to help, they will be debunked, rebutted, attacked. They will be told that they are hoaxers.
So, how can we then, as a civilization, how can we establish contact without breaking this universal rule?
Well, you say, before I go further, let me remove from your question the three words, as a civilization. Because I think we have seen that our civilization is limited and corrupt and wicked. So I don't think as a civilization we can do anything. I think we can do a lot as individuals, and I think all we can do as individuals, and it's a substantial amount, is each fashion our small brick to add to the big wall. Mm-hmm. That's all we can do. There'll come a time when the world says, oh yeah, we knew that. We knew that all the time. But there's no way we can act as a group, I fear.
Being here in Wiltshire and seeing all this military activity in this area, planes all over the place, bombshells going off not far from here, and the fact that the crop circles appear here every summer. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, look, I have to say what I've said before. My email is not packed with communications from number 10 Downing Street, from the government, from the from the Ministry of War or whatever they call it. I don't know what they think. I don't know what they do. Whatever they do has to be a matter of speculation. I would be very surprised if they haven't done some work on the crop circles. I would be very surprised if fundamentally they are not of the basic view that the crop circles are the work of hoaxers, because soldiers are also humans. And they don't want to. Soldiers have not got the imagination to face the wider implications of the crop circles. So I'm sure they will have looked around the edges of it, but I mean, can you imagine being the guy looking at this who has to send a memo to Tony Blair saying, "Dear Mr. Blair, we cannot explain this. We think the source of the crop circle phenomenon is non-terrestrial." Can you imagine having to take that responsibility? It doesn't happen. They're part of this consciousness as well.
And that's why the media is also so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine being the editor of a newspaper who has to publish a headline, "Earth is round, official." You wouldn't want to do it, you know. Don't want to do it. So I think we have to be very realistic about the context in which we're working.
What is your new book about?
The crop circles. It's a memoir. It's about my personal story. No one knows what's going on. I don't know what's going on. So I'm just sick of half-baked textbooks, you know. I don't know what's going on. I have simply written an honest account of my involvement in the crop circle phenomenon from 1990 to 2003 as a memoir, honestly written, so people can make of it what they will. There is no index, there is no bibliography, there are no references. I have no aspirations to stating facts or theories. I'm simply giving my own experience. So it's a memoir. Yeah.
When did you get involved in this and why? I mean, just to look back at the history of this.
Oh, gee, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I was an architect, you know. And as an architect, I was always very interested in the way things were put together. I loved, as I still do, making things. And I also did a lot of engineering and product development. So I was spending a lot of time in factories. I was always very impressed with the ingenuity of the production engineer. I was also interested in movies and spent time around movies. All my three sons are in film. So I've always been close to special effects and things like that. So my architecture gave me an interest in shape and geometry, number. And then, as a human being, I was always interested in the strange, the unusual, spontaneous human combustion, flying saucers, all that stuff. And I'd been watching crop circles, thinking, oh, that's very interesting. And then one day, I opened the newspaper and there was a picture of the big Alton Barnes pictogram in July of 1990. And I said to my youngest son, I'm going to drive down there now, and he said he'd come with me, and I walked into this crop circle, and I felt at that stage with some real arrogance that I knew how everything on the planet was made. I mean, I know about aluminium and plastic and wood and steel, and I know about the way they're put together. I know about the way scenery is made, a scene for films is set up. And I walked into this crop circle and I was bewildered. That first crop circle, I went in and I thought, this is other. This is from elsewhere. I do not know who could have put this together, or how, or why, or in what form, or with what purpose. I was bewildered by this. A bewilderment which has stayed with me to this day. I mean, the other thing about the dumb supporters of the hoax hypothesis is that they are never makers of things. You know, you can say, oh, somebody made that. But you'll never find a builder or a designer saying, oh, somebody made that. They think, oh, if somebody made that, I understand how much effort and organisation and planning will be involved. Most people don't ever organise a project like this, so they don't know what kind of effort would be involved.
As a closing, what would you say to a person seeing these things or becoming aware of these things for the first time? Like, I mean, if this interview was broadcasted or whatever, I mean, what do you say to the person who's never been aware of this before?
Open your heart. Open your heart. Open your heart.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. What can you say? I mean, I am as bewildered as anybody, but I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. That's all. But I'm still adrift. All we can do is open our hearts, ignore the stupid consensus, ignore the worldview, and open your individual, personal heart to which no one else has access unless you give it to them. Open your heart. Respond.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.